What's up, everyone? This week on Just Jason Keto and More, we're going to make some super cheesy lasagna chaffles. So stick around, we'll get started right after this. So for this recipe, we're going to start with 2 large eggs, and then we've got 2/3 of a cup of shredded mozzarella cheese, and then we've got a teaspoon of grated Parmesan, and then we've got some Italian seasoning, some cracked black pepper, and this is a teaspoon and a half of mascarpone cheese and a couple of tablespoons of lasagna meat sauce that I just whipped together today. So we'll start mixing this together, get the 2 eggs beaten up here, and then add the mozzarella cheese. This is the start of a basic chaffle recipe here, but I did add a second egg because we're adding the extra protein to these with the ground beef. So we'll add in our Italian seasoning, our black pepper, and our grated Parmesan cheese to the mix, and then we'll get that incorporated into the eggs and mozzarella. It's be a good time. If you're enjoying these recipes, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Really do appreciate y'all being here, watching these weekly chaffle recipes, as I enjoy really coming up with these different recipes for you. And of course, feel free to make this your own recipe with your own different seasonings and meat sauces and whatever you want to add to them. So here we've added in the ground beef. Get that mixed in there. And then we're going to add in the mascarpone cheese. Now I decided to use this. You could use ricotta, obviously, but I had this cheese here from last week's video, so I figured I'd use it for this week's video. So we'll just get that into the bowl. Make sure we get all of it, and then we're just going to basically just fold that in. Now, if your mix comes up a little bit too thick and too dry, I would definitely add another egg, because you don't want the chaffle mix to be too dry, or what I've found is they wind up sticking and they don't cook quite as well. So just keep an eye on that. This consistency here turned out good, so I'm happy with that. So let's get the Dash Minis all warmed up, and we'll start cooking our first 2 chaffles. Now this mix wound up getting me 3 chaffles in total. So just keep that in mind when you're divvying it up into the Dash Minis. So that's the first one. Now this mixture is fairly thick, so you don't really have to worry too much about it spilling out over the sides, but you don't need to fill it up all the way either, because when you close the lid, it'll spread it out to the edges. So here's the first 2 done. Took about 4 to 5 minutes. They're nice and golden brown. We'll get them out of there. Now these are very, they're soft chaffles. They're not crispy. I suppose you could add some Parmesan cheese on top and bottom to make them crispy, but I wanted to see how they turned out like this. So we put those first 2 on a wire rack, and we'll unplug that first waffle iron, because like I say, this is just going to make 3 chaffles this week. So we'll get this last waffle iron loaded up with the remaining mix. That looks good right there. So we're going to close up the waffle iron and be back in another 4 to 5 minutes. So here we are with chaffle number 3. Again, turned out nice and golden brown. So we'll get that one out and we'll get it cooling down just a little bit. We're going to do something a little extra this week though. We're going to take these chaffles and we can leave them right on the wire rack on a pan. And we're going to put some extra mozzarella cheese on top. And then we're going to put this under the broiler for a few minutes just to melt that cheese and make it nice and ooey gooey, as they would say. Figured these are lasagna chaffles, and that's one of the best parts about lasagna is the melted cheese on top. So I figured what better way to finish these off but add some more cheese. So here you see nice and golden brown. That took, another 4 or 5 minutes under the broiler. So we'll get those out and let them cool just a little bit because they're really hot right now, and we'll give them a try. So here's the finished chaffles. They smell really good, and as you can see, that extra cheese on top just adds another really tasty layer to these chaffles that already taste really good. So super happy with how these turned out. Would definitely recommend giving it a try. You can see they're still really hot. Hopefully enjoyed this week's video. Again, if you did, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week. Keep on thriving, my friends.